And one more look at traffic conditions out there. We're seeing Ashland Road at St. Andrews Road. There's an accident there. Also, I-26 eastbound at Piney Grove Road. Industrial Drive at South Lake Drive, an accident. And St. Andrews Road near Broad River Road, right there at about Meadowland Court. As far as your forecast is concerned, man, it's just pretty nice for being the middle of August. Looking for a high today of 87, 85 tomorrow. Low to mid 80s for the remainder of the week. We're still trying to get a little bit of sunshine. It seems to be kind of peaking out at this point. Right now, though, it's 75 on 107.5 The Game.
WNKT FM Eastover, Columbia.
Congrats to the Gamecocks women on another national championship.
A Cumulus media station. The extra point, the extra point, the extra point, the extra point.
With Tyler Head and Gamecock Central
On the Game Network.
9 o'clock on your Tuesday morning. Welcome in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head, Sam Stria from WIS hanging out with you, continuing to count down the days until the start of college football season. Really, if we're going to count down to actual just college football being played, only 4 days because week 0 is coming up this Saturday. But for South Carolina and Old Dominion, 11 days away from next Saturday. We're right on the cusp. I can taste it. It's almost here. And then we get to enjoy the best 4 to 5 months of the year, with football basically being nonstop through roughly the end of January. Mid-February, we talk about the Super Bowl, but it gets a little bit more sparse as you get into the NFL playoffs. But still, through the end of this year and at least through most of January, it's going to be football, and more football.
So let me ask you, Tyler, I guess when the countdown goes into single-digit days, do you get antsy or excited? Because I can't really contain myself right now.
I honestly, once football is on TV, it just feels like it just kicks into another gear. You know what I mean? And again, we still got to wait another 11 days for South Carolina to play, but the Saturday we'll have week 0 games, and then starting next Thursday we're going to have, other college football games. Missouri, Arkansas are going to play, Colorado, North Dakota State. So you get some games on Thursday and Friday that lead up to Saturday, games all day Saturday. You'll have Southern Cal and LSU on Sunday night, and then I think is it Florida State and somebody playing on Monday night. Let me double check on that. But you have a Monday night game as well on Labor Day that will wrap up the weekend. So once you start, again, the ball just keeps on rolling, and it's glorious. Boston College and Florida State on Monday, September the 2nd. That's Labor Day. So Florida State's going to play the week 0 game this weekend, come back home, and then take on Boston College in their week 1 game on Labor Day night. So again, full weekend that really kicks off the college football year, and then you get every weekend you're going to get games on Friday. Obviously, a full slate of games on Saturday. You'll start to get some more midweek games on Wednesdays and Thursdays as you get later on into the season, and it's the best time of year.
I feel like all the football fans' golden retriever complex is kicking into hyperdrive, especially going into this first week, because everybody is just so enthralled in the madness. They're completely clueless of what else is going on, but they're having a great time, at least that football's getting started.
Absolutely. And again, certainly hoping for a great year for South Carolina, and we're hoping to see a lot of great things out of a number of guys this year on this team. In particular, when we talk about some of these freshmen that are coming in this season that do have some pretty high expectations being, placed on them. And we're still waiting on South Carolina to officially release the depth chart that should be coming out probably this upcoming Monday for game week against Old Dominion. But as Coach Beamer mentioned, we'll play his cut here in just a second. There are going to be a lot of freshmen that are going to find their way onto the field in some degree or another. In fact, Ed, if we can go back to yesterday's cut list, let's find cut number 13. This is Coach Beamer Saturday after scrimmage number 2, talking about freshmen that are standing out so far through camp and ones that should be able to find their way onto the field when the season starts.
Oh,
Oh, man, it's a good question. I did. So we're allowed to take – we got 119 players on our team right now. We're allowed to take 74 to SEC away games. So I did last week kind of a preliminary, if we played Kentucky today and we can take 74 players, who would be on the trip. And there would be freshmen literally at every position, other than probably defensive tackle right now, that would be going on the trip as true freshmen. So we're trying to get them all ready to play. And I like the freshman class. It's a talented group, and there's going to be a lot of those guys out there in game one for sure. You guys will have to wait for the depth chart that y'all wait all year for its like release hot off the press to kind of see. I know it is. I put a lot of time into it. And when does that go out? Is that this week or is that
next Monday?
Next Monday. Wow. All right. But I mean that. No, seriously. Like every position. I think I know you'll see guys in the secondary. You will at linebacker. You will at defensive end. Obviously, you will at offensive line. You will at running back. You will receiver. You will in tight end. You will. That there'll be freshmen there playing, and who knows, there may be more positions as well. But that's kind of where we are right now.
And, I mean, he pretty much listed off just about every single position on the field, it seems like. So there's going to be freshmen playing throughout this roster. The difference is, compared to sometimes like last year, where your spots were so thin or you didn't have options, freshmen had to play. Now you're looking at situations where freshmen, if they are good enough, are going to find their way into the field. Not, well, we have no other choice. We got to throw them out there.
Yeah, and that's going to be great for Carolina going forward, because if they can keep those guys in-house, develop them through this first year. I know later in the show we're going to talk about some seniors that have stuff to prove and freshmen that are going to come in and make an immediate impact. But just having extended playing time with those players is just going to go such a long way in keeping key developing pieces on both sides of the ball for this team.
Well, a couple of freshmen that he named without naming on that list there that we know are going to make big impacts on this team are Dylan Stewart and Josiah Thompson. They were named to On3's preseason freshman All-America team. And again, when you look at Josiah Thompson, who's expected to be in the mix for the left tackle spot, was running with the ones this past weekend at that spot and could be starting against Old Dominion here in a couple days. And Dylan Stewart obviously coming in as a 5-star this past cycle as well. That is expected to be a big part of what that edge room is, where South Carolina tries to re-up its pass rush and affect the quarterback a little bit more. So no real surprise that these guys are on that list. And out of all the freshmen, if they were ones that you were going to say were going to make the biggest impact, it would probably be these two guys.
Absolutely. I'm very excited to see what Josiah Thompson and Lenoris Sellers are going to do on the offensive side of the ball together. I mean, Josiah Thompson has gained 30 pounds since he first got to camp here. And I mean, when you already see people talking about, oh, this guy's put on 30 good pounds of muscle, going into the season. When you kind of conjure up something like that, it only seems like a positive picture that's going to go up from there. I mean, as both guys kind of develop and play together as well, they're going to figure out what tendencies work better. And I think that's going to be a great, kind of block on the left side for Sellers.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you can't teach size. He's listed, and you mentioned he put on about 30 pounds, so he's getting close to 300 pounds as far as the weight goes, but he's listed as about 6'6" coming in. And again, look, offensive linemen are big in general, but there are some of them that are just absolute monsters. And from everything that we've seen from Josiah Thompson, I heard about him through camp so far, he lives up to that billing of being just a monstrous guy. Obviously has good mechanics on the offensive line, which is why he has the opportunity to come in here and maybe factor into being a starter. Now, ideally, and we ran into this last year with Trevon Ball and Sri Babalade, who were both pretty highly touted guys coming in out of last year's class. There were so many injuries, they had to start. The idea was not to have them play significant snaps last year, but you had no other choice. That being said, it gained them valuable experience. But if a guy like Josiah Thompson can come in here, as I said, with a full offensive line room like South Carolina has, and he just wins the job, then by all means throw him out there because he's absolutely earned it, as opposed to, well, we have no other choice to go out there because you're the only body we have left.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes you see guys, put on, muscle or weight like this kind of before the season so that they can maintain, being healthy, being stronger, going into the later parts of the season. And, he's coming in as a freshman, and if he's going to have to jump in right away as a starter, he's going to need to be durable going through the year.
Yeah. Now, that being said, I think we should caution everyone because there's going to be growing pains, as we saw last year with Tree and Tro, who, again, were very highly touted. They had their ups and downs on the offensive line. And for Josiah Thompson, I'm sure he's never seen anything like an SEC edge rusher having to hold one of those guys off. So he's probably going to give up a sack or two. He's probably going to get beat a few times. That's just part of the process. It's learning, though. And when you have somebody like him that is good enough to start as a true freshman, when you think about the development and how much better he will get over the course of his career if he chooses to stay at South Carolina, what kind of monster he could be by year number 3 or year number 4, depending how long he wants to stay, if he does end up being as good as advertised.
He's also going to be starting as a freshman in the SEC, one of the most talented, if not the most talented conference in college football right now. When you have the ability to kind of capitalize on an opportunity like that, where you can start in one of the most talented conferences in college football at 18, 19 years old, I mean, if I were in his position, I would you kind of can't really get a better starting situation than that.
And we don't know for sure if he is going to be the starting left tackle, but we know he's in that group of kind of the solid 8 that Coach Beamer referred to the other day. They're in the mix for those 5 starting spots. And again, we'll learn exactly who those guys are coming up on Monday when we get the official depth chart. And look, Dylan Stewart, I think it kind of speaks for itself. He's been the guy that has garnered so much attention this offseason. His commitment to South Carolina surprised a lot of people. And, you know, he's a low-key, low-profile kind of guy that just kind of keeps to himself. But everything that we've heard about him through practice and scrimmage and spring ball has been up to the billing so far. Now he has to go out there and prove it on the field, but when you see his athleticism on tape, when you see the pictures of him and his physical transformation, everybody's so excited about what Dylan Stewart's going to be able to do this year. When
you see a 6'6", 250-pound pass rusher running a 4.6 40, if I were the other teams in the SEC, I'd be running for the hills too. I mean, that does not seem like a fun player to necessarily get sacked or hit by in any way, shape, or form. So, if I was a lot of those other SEC teams, I would be worried about Dylan Stewart too.
And I think he comes into a good situation where it's not all on his shoulders to be the guy right away. And look, last year, South Carolina's edge room wasn't what we wanted it to be. They didn't put a whole lot of pressure on quarterbacks. They only had a handful of sacks. You know what I mean? Like this offseason, they went out there, they got Kyle Kennard from Georgia Tech. They brought back Gilbert Edmond from Florida State, 2 guys that are very experienced, that have been around college football for a while, that are going to be looked at as the initial leaders of this group. Dylan Stewart can, and he's going to get his playing time. If he can go out there and ball out and just be the monster we think he can be, he's going to get more and more playing time. But again, he doesn't come in here saying, okay, well, you're the entire edge room. You got to go out there and perform, or we're not going to have any pressure off the edge. It's like, okay, we got these other guys. You're going to get your chance. And if you continue to impress us, you're going to get more and more playing time, and your role is going to increase.
Like, it's almost in a sense not in the same way as Jadeveon Clowney, where like the entire defense is kind of centered around him, but he is more just a piece that is focal in driving this defense, but he's also got, those experienced pieces around him to kind of show him the way a little bit.
And if things go well, the defense can eventually revolve around what he does. If he ends up being a Clowney-esque type of guy, and again, Jadeveon Clowney did not come in right away and become the dominant force that he was. It did take a little bit of time, but again, Dylan Stewart is getting that similar type of billing, and we certainly hope he lives up to that, because if he does, that means this defense as a whole, particularly when it comes to the pass rush, is probably going to have a good season.
He's in a prime spot right now to put himself in a great starting position as a focal centerpiece in that defense in years to come, I think.
And that's something that I constantly like to remind people about when talking about these highly touted freshmen that come in. And, we've had the conversation plenty of times about Nick Harbor and people that were disappointed with his freshman year. There is a jump when you go from high school to college. I don't care what high school you played at, what state, there's an acclimation period. And some guys acclimate quicker and come out of the gate firing on all cylinders. Some guys, it's a little bit more of a slower process, and you have to give them time to develop, have to get them time to go up to speed. And we hope, again, that a guy like Dylan Stewart as a 5-star can live up to that billing and go on and be one of the top picks in the draft here in a couple years after playing a successful career at South Carolina. But you just never truly know until you see it on display. But again, everything that we've heard up to this point is very promising.
Yeah, and I was kind of reading what On3 director of scouting and rankings Charles Power said about Dylan Stewart. He said, "quote This is a first off the bus type player, and one who we feel shouldn't have much trouble holding against college offensive linemen." Sometimes that's not always the easiest thing in the world to just come out 18, 19 years old and get around, these guys that are 6'5", 6'6", 320 plus. But I mean, given we just kind of talked about his size, athleticism, kind of how he's been adapting into, training with the team. It's kind of interesting because it doesn't necessarily seem like that may be the case. It kind of seems like it might be a toss-up, which way it could really go either way.
And again, these two guys, and Dylan Stewart and Josiah Thompson, named On3's preseason freshman All-American team. That's certainly a mouthful. That hopefully sets up South Carolina for a lot of success going forward at those respective positions. We'll flip to the other side of things and take a look at some seniors who have some things to prove this upcoming season. Real quick, though, I want to remind you, coming up this Friday, it's our annual Summer Golf Classic at Charwood Golf Club in West Columbia. Going to be raffling off football season tickets and be crowning our ultimate Gamecock season ticket giveaway winner as well. If you want to sign up, there's still some spots for foursomes. Give Charwood a call at 803-755-2000.
107.5 The Game.
In Columbia.
100.5 The Game.
In Florence.
100.3 The Game.
In Myrtle Beach. The Game Network. Sibs and Sounds, Saturday, September 28th at the Carolina Haven.
It's the only craft beer, wine, and spirits tasting event that is indoors under the cool AC.
Over 40 brands of local, regional, and national craft beers, wine, seltzers.
Live music by Ken and Drew of Sister Hazel, Dazer, and the Donovan Twins.
Get your early bird unlimited tasting wristbands starting at just $35 at sibsandsoundscola.com. sibsandsoundscola.com. 107.5 The Game. Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios.
Take up to $20,000 off new Silverados.
Stop by or shop online today and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile. Together, let's drive.
Deep in the heart of racing country lies a track too tough to tame. The perfect setting for the late season drama of the Southern 500.
Outside lane gets the launch.
One last chance to make a playoff push. One last chance to catch regular season racing.
All clear.
One last chance to plan a Labor Day weekend worth bragging about.
Southern 500, baby.
NASCAR weekend at Darlington Raceway, August 31st and September 1st. Get your tickets now at darlingtonraceway.com.
Hi, Jen here. Did you know you could earn up to 4.59% annual percentage yield with All South Federal Credit Union's premium checking account? That's 30 times more than the national average interest checking rate, which means more money in your bank account each month. Plus, they have 23 locations right here in the Midlands. Open an account online at allsouth.org or visit an All South location today to start earning more. All South is federally insured by the NCUA.
As a mom, comforting my family is what I do best. Vicks VapoStick provides soothing, non-medicated Vicks vapors in an easy-to-apply stick, and it dries fast, so there's no mess. I use it to comfort myself and my family.
Thanks, Mom.
Vicks VapoStick, soothing comfort for the whole family. And when you need more comfort for yourself, try Vicks Vapo Shower Max for steamy Vicks vapors. Use as directed. VapoStick for use ages 4 and up. Vapo Shower Max use for adults only.
You've got a Pepto predicament, Beach Bum.
Hey, we're heading down to the beach. You coming?
Yeah, Dad. You coming?
I had a little too much to eat at the resort buffet. I need a minute. Oh, you overdid it. And now your beach vacation is giving you belly waves. Undo it with Pepto.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Pepto Chewables provide fast 5-symptom relief so you can get back to making memories.
Let's go, Dad!
When you overdo it, undo it with Pepto. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Call Lawyer Lisa. Experience the difference with Lawyer Lisa.
Hi, this is Lisa Hosteller-Brown. Do you know the difference between a revocable trust and an irrevocable trust? The difference could easily save you hundreds of thousands of dollars in long-term care costs. Visit lawyerlisa.com to schedule a consultation today.
Call Lawyer Lisa. Experience the difference trust with lawyer Lisa.
7511 St. Andrews Road, Irmo, South Carolina.
Daddy, you need a trust.
NIL is more important than ever to success in college athletics. Our friends at Garnet Trust are trying to build the best NIL program in the country for South Carolina student athletes. Head on over to garnettrust.com where you can support Gamecock athletes, get access to exclusive content, and help build the best NIL program in the country.
What you're talking about. Sponsored by Love Chevy, where the winning is only beginning. South Carolina's #1 volume Chevy dealer. I-26 at Harbison and at lovechevy.com. Together, let's drive.
It's welcome back season at Village Idiot Pizza. Welcome back students. Welcome back football. And welcome back to creating shared experiences over pizza with all your friends. We at the Village Idiot are excited to cheer on all your favorite teams, especially our very own Gamecocks. Join us on Divine Street in 5 Points or Olympia at the Mills to watch all the big games. Or grab your tailgate munchies. Visit us at villageidiotpizza.com to find out what's happening. Go Gamecocks and go Tigers. Benedict Tigers. What'd you think I meant?
Powered by Integrated Media, The Game TV.
Sponsored by Shepherd's Glass, a true reflection of quality.
The Game TV.
Sponsored by Shepherd's Glass. Got something to say?
Ring us up on the Love Chevy phone line.
At 803-404-6100. 107.5 The Game in Columbia. 100.5 The Game in Florence. 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. The Game Network. The Extra Point
with Tyler Head and Gamecock Central
on the Game Network.
Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head, Sam Shapiro from WIS along with you on your Tuesday morning. Talked a lot about freshmen in that last segment there. Where again, Dylan Stewart and Josiah Thompson, preseason freshman All-Americans according to On3, and we certainly hope those guys are going to live up to the billing not only this season, but for the next couple of years as South Carolina Gamecocks. On the flip side of things, this is a very senior-laden team. A lot of experience at just about every single position. In fact, quarterback's the only spot that does not have a senior within its room, which, again, compared to some of the spots last year, that is a night and day difference, which is very exciting. So that being said, not every senior is in the same type of situation. Some of these guys know they have opportunities at the next level. Some of these guys haven't even got a chance to start at all in their college career. So everybody kind of goes in to their senior year this year with different objectives, different goals, not to say different mindset, because everybody wants to be successful, everybody wants to win, but what they're going out there to prove is different across the board, depending on what spot you play, how much you played up to this point, all those kind of things. And there's a very interesting list of seniors that have specific things they're trying to go out there and accomplish this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could be interesting whether you have those older guys in a leadership position or just a starting position. I think, we just talked about a lot of the incoming freshmen that are going to, maybe be literally quite thrown into the fire right off the bat. So having those glue guys kind of in place is going to, it might not necessarily show them the ropes entirely, but also just show them, what going through a season of college football is like. And just sometimes having those guys in place can really, make a program and allow guys to come in and develop.
And we'll run through a couple of these guys here. We'll start with one that you had brought up, that being O'Donnell Fortune, who's going to be occupying one of the cornerback slots this year. We're still trying to figure out who exactly is going to be starting the opposite side of him, but there's been no doubt this entire offseason that O'Donnell Fortune is one of the starting cornerbacks on this team. That being said, he still has a lot to prove this year.
Yeah, I mean, I want, Sumter native, I want to see him go out and have a breakout year. It'd be really exciting to see him have, that great, he's a redshirt senior, I believe. So it'd be interesting to kind of see him kind of capitalize on that last season with a bang. I mean, he had 39 tackles last year. I think that ranked 7th amongst the team. Mm-hmm. So I know him kind of playing behind guys that are now in the NFL definitely kind of set him up for what I think is going to be a great breakout year for him, and I just can't wait to see what he's going to do.
And when you look at what Carolina's done the past couple of years when it comes to defensive backs, in 3 of the past 4 drafts, they've had at least one defensive back taken. You had Cam Smith, Darius Rush a couple of years ago. You just had Marcellus Dial get drafted this past season. So he's in a position group that NFL scouts are looking at, saying, hey, South Carolina produces NFL caliber cornerbacks. Is O'Donnell Fortune going to be that next guy? What's going to be interesting to see from him is if he can take that step of being cornerback number one, because again, Marcellus Dial was that guy last year where they were primarily putting on him whoever the best receiver on the opposing team was. Can O'Donnell Fortune step up to that this year, being the primary guy? As again, we're still trying to figure out who's going to be playing opposite him on the other side of the field. Can O'Donnell Fortune handle the pressure of taking on Luther Burden? Can he take on Eugene Wilson? These high-level guys, whoever, Alabama's going to roll out as their top receiver this year. Whoever, can O'Donnell Fortune stand up to that task?
It's going to be definitely not easy, especially because you're not playing alongside a lot of that NFL caliber talent. But when you're kind of riding on that, the coattails of that, it's kind of a learning process. So, you might be shaking off a little rust, week 1, week 2, but I'm excited to see what he's going to do. Definitely so.
So excited to see what O'Donnell Fortune's going to be able to do. Two guys that I kind of grouped together here out of the wide receiver room. Devon Campbell coming over from Nevada, Gage Larvadain coming over from Miami of Ohio. I think both these guys are here, and I know Devon Campbell even said this a couple weeks ago when he was talking to the media, just prove they can play in the SEC. Like, these are guys that have had good amounts of success at their prior schools in the group of 5, but there's definitely a difference and a lot more respect you get as a wide receiver if you can come in and prove that you can play in the toughest conference in all of college football. These two guys are very different in their skill sets, obviously, but both, I think, going into the season trying to accomplish the same thing and maybe earn themselves the opportunity to play at the next level.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's so interesting you picked these two guys specifically because I think they kind of cater to two separate needs, two separate needs this offense could really utilize in terms of, in terms of an offensive weapon in the air. For example, Larvadain, we were talking about, is a great slot weapon, can really use his side to manipulate, his speed, especially as a slot receiver. And then you have Devon Campbell, who's just a big deep ball threat, who is, if you're jumping up and getting that ball in the end zone, I mean, there's a pretty good chance he's going to get it over, 2 or 3, D-backs. So I think they could complement to each other's strengths very well if they're on the fields at the same time. But I think, like you were kind of saying, they both still kind of have a lot to prove, coming into this program and getting started this season.
Well, and for Devon Campbell specifically, he was a good player on a really, really bad Nevada Wolfpack team last year. Do you want to know? So he caught 2 touchdowns last year for Nevada. Do you want to know the total amount of passing touchdowns that team had last year?
How many?
6.
So
over an entire
about a third.
Over an entire season, they had 6 passing touchdowns. He caught 2 of them.
Well, you could say he caught a third of the team's touchdowns.
Exactly. He was the kind of the Ferrari sitting next to the dilapidated house, it seemed like. So I'm very interested to see what he can do this year with a lot more complementary pieces around him, a better offensive scheme, all that kind of stuff. The question with him is, okay, is he going to be your main wideout guy when the season starts? Is Nick Harbor going to be where you need him to be? And as the season goes along, as Harbor continues to develop and progress, do we get less of Devon Campbell? Is it more of a split? Like, how do they end up playing that with him is going to be interesting to see play out.
I don't know. He might be, and this might be kind of a hot take, he may be a little small, but I could see him even moving into that tight end spot if he was trying to get another receiver in there with him on the field at the same time. I mean, his size really gives him a lot of flexibility in terms of where you can kind of put him on the field. And I mean, with the exception of the slot, I could kind of see him being put almost anywhere on that offense.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what kind of options and what kind of possibilities that Dow Loggins ends up using him in. They didn't really use him in the rush game a whole lot when he was at Nevada, so that's something that maybe they could see trying a little bit with him here if they think that's a good opportunity. But again, you have so many speedy, smaller guys at the wide receiver spot. You'd probably be better served to use those guys in those kind of unique type of scenarios. One more guy that I want to throw out here, that being Bam Martin-Scott. We've talked about so much this offseason for what he did last year, where people, I don't think, really had many expectations for him going into the season. But as the year wore on, especially as they continued to implement the 3-3-5 defense, which gave him more opportunities to be on the field at that linebacker spot. He suddenly started to thrive a whole lot more and ended up being one of the better linebackers towards the end of the season for South Carolina. Now, we know that it's still going to be a little bit of a balance, a little bit of a mix, according to Clayton White, the defensive coordinator, on which, the 4-2-5 or 3-3-5 that they use. But that confidence of knowing that you could fit within that system last year, we'll see if that pays dividends for Bam Martin-Scott coming into this year and what he can prove at the linebacker spot for South Carolina in his senior season.
Well, coming off the spring, he was just recognized most improved player of the spring for the defense.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's kind of the best momentum you could kind of get, especially as an experienced linebacker with new talent coming in. I mean, that's all the momentum you could kind of really ask for going into this fall. If I were him, I'd be really excited.
Absolutely. So, again, a lot of guys, both as freshmen and senior, trying to prove themselves this season for South Carolina, which, again, hopefully will lead to a lot of success for the Gamecocks overall. And hopefully at least get themselves back to a bowl game. By the way, we're going to hear from Coach Beamer once again as they're doing a mock game week this week. So just like during the season, he will have his Tuesday press conference, which we'll have for you today at 1 o'clock during the halftime show with myself and Terry Ford. Yesterday, The Athletic put out their full list, ranking all 134 FBS teams. Where does South Carolina fall, and how does that relate to the other teams in the SEC? We'll dive into that coming up next. It is The Extra Point. He is Sam Spear from WIS. I'm Tyler Head on your Tuesday on The Game.
The Game Network in Columbia.
107.5 The Game.
In Florence.
100.5 The Game.
In Myrtle Beach.
100.3 The Game. The Game's Summer Golf Classic Golf Tournament is coming.
Sign up start the week of July 29th. Call Charwood at 803-755-2000 to reserve your foursome. One lucky player will win a pair of season tickets to all Gamecocks home football games.
The Games 2024 Summer Golf Classic is August 23rd at Charwood. Call 803-755-2000 to reserve your foursome.
Bill Gunner for Dr. Dan Balknight and the Men's Clinic. Getting older is never fun. You start experiencing some symptoms that you're not accustomed to. Maybe it's brain fog. Maybe it's low energy level. Maybe it's lack of drive and motivation. But at the Men's Clinic, Dr. Dan Balknight is ready to help you with an individualized treatment that will treat your needs. So give them a phone call today, 803-875-MENS. Again, that's 803-875-MENS, or visit them on the web for more information, mensclinicsc.com.
Do you like to play golf?
Are you passionate about helping others?
Then join us at our 16th annual Oliver Gospels Charity Classic,
where all proceeds support the care of men, women, and children at Oliver Gospel and Toby's Place.
Assemble your team and help us golf for good on October 7th at Fort Jackson Golf Club.
Go online to olivergospel.org/golf tournament to sponsor or sign up today for the tournament.
When someone first comes in and you see that discouragement on their face, they've tried so many different products, but nothing seemed to work for them. I'm able to take that and turn it into hope.
You're listening to Mallory, an arch support specialist at the Good Feet store.
They try the arch supports. You see their face brighten up from feeling discouraged to being happy and hopeful again. You're helping people. We're able to take them from the pain to the possibilities.
Try them for yourself with a free fitting at the Good Feet store.
The Good Feet store. Call 1-800-NEW-FEET or visit goodfeet.com.
107.5 The Game football kickoff tournament is coming up Friday, August 23rd at Charwood Golf Club, where one lucky winner will receive season tickets to South Carolina home football games. Call Charwood to register your foursome. We'll see you August 23rd at Charwood.
Let your kids learn from the best. Hi, I'm Mark Whitcar from the Carolina Basketball Association, inviting you to our Fall Skills Camp Saturday, August 24th at Northside Christian Academy. Elite instructors include Gamecock standout Zach Davis, Cam Scott, and Jacoby Wright. Prepare your child for the season and help them improve their skills. Space is limited, so don't wait. Register your athlete age 10 to 16 for the Fall Skills Camp at cba4youth.com. That's CBA, the number 4, youth.com.
You already know that Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union offers truly free checking and great rates on auto loans, but did you know they do mortgages too? Whether you need a first or second mortgage, a home equity line of credit, or a loan for construction, renovation, a lot, or a manufactured home, Palmetto Citizens has you covered. They're a community financial institution based solely here in the Midlands, so they offer a refreshingly simple mortgage process you won't get from the big banks or online lenders. Along with a great rate, the Palmetto Citizens mortgage team will work with you to tailor the loan to best fit your needs and budget. Apply for your mortgage today by visiting palmettocitizens.org or stopping by any of their 14 branches across the Midlands. Palmetto Citizens, proudly serving this community since 1936. Equal Housing Lender, NMLS ID number 449962. Approval based on credit worthiness. Certain restrictions may apply.
As a mom, comforting my family is what I do best. Vicks VapoStick provides soothing, non-medicated Vicks vapors in an easy-to-apply stick, and it dries fast, so there's no mess. I use it to comfort myself and my family.
Thanks, Mom.
Vicks VapoStick, soothing comfort for the whole family. And when you need more comfort for yourself, try Vicks Vapo Shower Max for steamy Vicks vapors.
Use as directed. VapoStick for use ages 4 and up. Vapo Shower Max use for adults only.
You've got a Pepto predicament, Beach Bum.
Hey, we're heading down to the beach. You coming?
Yeah, Dad. You coming?
I had a little too much to eat at the resort buffet. I need a minute.
Oh, you overdid it. And now your beach vacation is giving you belly waves. Undo it with Pepto.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Pepto Chewables provide fast 5-symptom relief so you can get back to making memories.
Let's go, Dad!
When you overdo it, undo it with Pepto. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Who did the heavy lifting?
Sponsored by TEC Equipment Rental
at 2025 Old Dunbar Road in Casey.
Well, welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head, Sam Spiro from WIS along with you on your Tuesday here on the game. It is time for our Who Did the Heavy Lifting, brought to you by our friends over at TEC Equipment Rentals. And, well, there's safe to say that Carolina's going to be doing a lot of heavy lifting with the schedule this year, as it is not an easy one by any means. And, look, there's no easy schedules when it comes to the SEC. I think we all know that very, very well. But for South Carolina, we're hoping, if nothing else, to at least get back to a bowl game this year and, take a step forward from where they were a year ago at going 5-7. Yesterday, The Athletic released their full rankings, 1 to 134, starting with Ohio State, going all the way down to Kennesaw State at 134. And probably curious to where South Carolina falls in this. 45th. Not terrible. From a national perspective, you find yourself in the upper third of college football when you put it that way. That being said, they're still 13th out of all teams in the SEC, and they are behind 8 of their opponents. So based on the law of that, you're still right around that projected area of being 4-8 to 5-7, like we've seen so many national publications put on them going into this season. So again, just, and not that these are rankings. What do they mean at the end of the day? Nothing. It's just more perspective on what people think about the South Carolina program going into the season. And again, this kind of backs up what just about everybody else has been saying to this point.
The schedule, it's really tough. No, I read this list and I saw South Carolina at 45th, and I went, that's because at least 15 or 20 of these teams behind USC. USC has a harder bout than a lot of them. LSU, Oklahoma, and Bama all before November. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's tough for any team. I mean, you got those are three of the most toughest opponents in the conference. A lot of these teams, like even Miami, who was 60 something, was I think 11 or is projected to go 11-3, and I mean they're projected much lower, I would say, because they're not playing some of the best teams in college football. So I think 45 is a really good spot for USC, not just because of where they're coming from last year, but they like we've been talking about the last couple of weeks, they have one of the hardest schedules coming up this year.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And look, we've talked about this 6 ways from Sunday throughout the course of this entire offseason, that for South Carolina to get to 6 wins, it's not going to be easy. And the biggest and most important game of the entire season appears to be that Week 2 game against Kentucky, because that is what we deem a swing game that could truly go either way. Yeah, you'd love to beat Ole Miss. Yeah, you'd love to beat Alabama. As of right now, I'm not putting the likelihood of that super high. So you kind of almost count those as losses, even though, again, anything can happen. But when you talk about games that are very winnable, obviously Old Dominion in week number 1. Obviously, Akron in week number 4. Wofford at the end of the season. Vanderbilt towards the end of the season. Those are 4 wins that you don't want to guarantee, but you could say, yeah, I think South Carolina should be able to pick up those without too much of a fight. Where do you find your other 2? Kentucky's definitely one of them. Can you beat a Texas A&M later on the season? Is Missouri going to be as good as they were a year ago when they come in late in the year? Can you pull an upset against one of these better teams? Can you beat an LSU who's still questionable on defense? Like, a lot of possibilities are out there. And again, we look at this. We make these rankings based on what we know about the team from the prior year, because we look at their records from the year prior. We look at what they have coming back. We look at what they have in the transfer portal. But again, we're still preconceived to think about the team from the last time we saw them. So for a lot of people, Carolina's still a 5-7 team, just like they were last year. Don't pay attention to the fact that they just rebuilt half the rooms on this team. Everybody looks at the record from last year and goes off of that as their initial starting point. It's just what we're inclined to do.
And, sometimes even people are optimistic and will say, based on some of the players that we were just talking about that they've either brought in or developed, because of that, maybe flip-flop that record to a 7-5 instead of a 5-7. But I thought it was interesting you bringing up the swing game in Kentucky. If you look on this list, Kentucky and South Carolina are literally right next to each other. Kentucky's 44 on the list.
Yeah, which goes back to what I've said this entire offseason. Carolina looks at Kentucky the same way Kentucky looks at South Carolina, as we should beat that team.
Oh, yeah.
And for the past couple of years, Carolina's gotten the better of Kentucky, and it's driven Kentucky crazy because they think we should be better than that team. And when Kentucky beats South Carolina, Kentucky fans or South Carolina fans think the same thing. We should be better than that team. And again, it's perfect that they are right there next to each other at 44 and 45, because again, this game is probably going to be a tooth and nail down to the wire fight of 2 pretty evenly matched teams from what we think about them at this point.
Yeah, and another thing, kind of just looking at this list, kind of just looking at it now, I see teams like Utah and Miami finishing 8-5, 7-6, yet they're cracking the top 20.
Well, those are the records from last year.
Right. No, I guess I'm just, I don't know how, I mean, is there necessarily something they're dealing with? I mean, are they?
And for something unique for a team like Utah, they're going into a new conference. So most of the teams they played a year ago are no longer on their schedule, going into a conference like the Big 12 that loses its 2 top dogs in Texas and Oklahoma, very wide open. A lot of people are projecting Utah to win the Big 12 in their first year there. So, and plus they get Cam Rising, their quarterback, back this year, as he missed the entire season. So a lot of reason for optimism when it comes to them and their ability to possibly make it into the 12-team playoff. I mentioned Ohio State is at the top of this list, but let's kind of run through the top 10 here. And it's very much in line with what we've seen out of the AP poll and the coaches poll. Ohio State at 1, Georgia at 2, Oregon at 3, Texas at 4, Alabama at 5, Ole Miss at 6, Notre Dame at 7, Michigan at 8, Florida State at 9, and then Missouri at 10. So again, a lot of the same teams, just kind of mixed and matched in a few different spots. Again, Georgia's kind of gotten the benefit of the doubt in some of the other polls. Ohio State gets it here. Again, I think 1 or 2 are pretty interchangeable. Both teams kind of expect to be in the national championship when the season's over. But again, pretty consensus across the board with most of these rankings of who most of those teams in the top 10 end up being.
Yeah, I think it'll be funny if Ohio State does pull a Michigan and takes their veteran-ladded team to a national title, kind of like the Blue just did.
Well, I mean, they're kind of in win-now mode. And look, Ohio State's always a perennial national championship contender, but what they did this offseason in the transfer portal, got Will Howard, they got Quinshon Judkins, got Caleb Downs from Alabama. They just brought in so much high-level talent. If they don't at least make the national championship, everybody's going to look at this season as a failure.
Oof.
Which in a 12-team playoff, that's crazy to say because anything can happen in those games. But again, when you push all your chips in the middle of the table as a team, as a program like Ohio State, if you don't get yourself back to that mountaintop, then you're going to look in the mirror and say, well, what do we do all this for?
Well, and they're going into it having better odds than they have in years past.
Right.
So it's kind of like at that point, if you come up empty-handed and you had multiple more chances than you did in years prior, I mean, what are you doing?
Well, and especially given the fact that Michigan is probably not going to be what they were a year ago. Lost a lot of talent. Lost their head coach, is one of the best football minds in all of America right now. And Jim Harbaugh. I personally don't think they're a top 10 team anymore. I think they get the benefit of the doubt because they won the national championship, but that also opens the door for Ohio State. Okay, Michigan's probably not as much of a threat anymore. Can you reclaim that top spot at the top of the Big Ten? And before anything else, can you beat Michigan at the end of the regular season? Because you haven't done that in 4 years.
It's going to be interesting to see how it kind of pans out at the end of the year between those two teams, but I think Ohio State going into this season has a lot more, not just over Michigan, but they have a lot more to prove because of that.
Absolutely, for sure. And again, these are all rankings for talking points and stuff leading up to the season, and our opinions and thoughts of these teams are going to shift as the season does go along. So excited to see what happens as the season gets rolling here in just a couple of days. A reminder, coming up tomorrow morning, myself, Wes, and Chris going to be out at Firehouse Subs right around the corner here at 633 Main Street on campus as a school is getting rolling for students at USC. We're going to be out there celebrating, getting you set for plenty of college football coming up here in a couple days. Again, Firehouse Subs tomorrow, 633 Main Street from 9 until noon. Come by and see us. We'll wrap up today's edition of The Extra Point. Tua Tagovailoa yesterday speaking on the Dan Le Batard Show, some very, very pointed criticism for his former head coach, Brian Flores. We'll hear what he had to say. Talk about hard-nosed coaching and its place in sports today. It's coming up next. It is The Extra Point. He's Sam Shapiro. I'm Tyler Head on your Tuesday here on The Game.
Ever been on this date?
You're a good-looking man.
Thank you.
Very pretty. Real soft, delicate features. They're real feminine.
And thought, man, I'd rather be listening to The Game right now.
Welcome in to the afternoon show. Alongside Elijah Campbell, I'm Jay Phillips.
Well, just go to iTunes or Google Play and download the Game app. Sure, you may no longer be with that person anymore, but you'll never be without the game again. From the Midlands to the PD to the beach.
The Game Network.
This is Boomer Esiason with the Sports Minute, sponsored by Fisher Investments. 35-year-old Daryl Duquette quarterbacks the U.S. national flag football team that took gold at the 2022 World Games and won last year's America's Continental Championship. Duquette recently declared that NFL players should have to earn their spots on Team USA for the 2028 LA Olympics. I'm Boomer Esiason.
At Fisher Investments, we may seem like other money managers, but we're different.
What makes you so different than the rest of us?
We ensure clients receive unparalleled service at every step of the relationship.
Tell me more.
Our investment counselors focus on service over sales, prioritizing clients' needs.
How do you make money?
We don't sell any commission-based products. We have a simple management fee based on the value of our client's portfolio. So we do better when our clients do better.
What about client portfolios?
We get to know each client, their finances, family, health, lifestyle, and more, and then we tailor a portfolio based on their specific goals and needs.
Your clients really come first then, huh?
Yes, we make them a top priority. Our goal is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement.
Wow, maybe we are different.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
It's time for mortgage protection with Preston and your top broker, Benji Getsy from Buford Lending. Rates continue to fall. Hey, Benji, give us this week's mortgage minute.
Excellent rates across the board and the best rates of 2024. Now is the time to purchase or refinance. VA 30-year purchase, 5.7%. VA refinance, 5.5% with no income, no appraisal. FHA 100% USDA, 5.8%, APR 6.0. And the 30-year conventional, lowest of 2024, 5.99, APR 6.3. Investor loans, fix and flip, DSCR and second home, 7.6%, APR 8.0. And Don't forget our first-time home buyer incentive, 100% financing with up to $15,000 in down payment assistance. So shop and lock your rate with Buford Lending today. We want to be your broker. Rate subject to change. Equal housing lender. Credit restrictions apply. NMLS 1703543.
For more information on how Benji and his team at Buford Lending can help you, visit them online at Buford.mortgage or call 843-524-2404.
Progressive presents good news, bad news, dumb news, then great news. Good news. While leaning over the fence, your neighbors said you could save money bundling home and auto insurance with Progressive. Bad news. Your neighbor leaned over a little too much and broke your fence. Dumb news. Somehow fence wood is more expensive than wood. Great news. You decide to see if you could save money bundling at Progressive.com and to plant really tall shrubs. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential, but finding those people can be a major hassle unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies candidates with the right skills, sends you great matches, then you can easily invite them to apply. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. See for yourself. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/free to try ZipRecruiter for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
The Extra Point
with Tyler Head and Gamecock Central
on the Game Network.
Welcome back in. Extra Point. Tyler Head, Sam Streer from WIS, along with you on your Tuesday morning here on the Game. As I mentioned before the break there, Tua Tagovailoa, quarterback for the Miami Dolphins, was on the Dan Le Batard show yesterday doing an interview, and of course, Brian Flores left the Miami Dolphins under some controversial circumstances, lawsuits against the NFL. A lot of stuff has transpired since then. But the Dolphins have been playing good football these past couple of years with Mike McDaniel at the helm, calling plays. Tua's been kind of revitalized after having a rocky start at the beginning of his career. And he had some comments yesterday in relation to his relationship with Brian Flores and how he's benefited a lot more since Mike McDaniels has been the head coach. Let's go with cut number 7 from today's list here. Ed, here's what Tua said on the Dan Le Batard show.
To put it in simplest terms, if you woke up every morning and I told you you suck at what you did, that you don't belong doing what you do, that you shouldn't be here, that this guy should be here, that you haven't earned this right, and then you have somebody else come in and tell you, dude, you are the best fit for this. Like, you are accurate, you are the best whatever, you are this, you are that. Like, how would it make you feel listening to one or the other? You see what I'm saying? And then you hear it, regardless of what it is, the good or the bad, and you hear it more and more, you start to actually believe that. I don't care who you are. You could be the president of the United States. You have a terrible person that's telling you things that you don't want to hear, or that you probably shouldn't be hearing. You're going to start to believe that about yourself. And so that's sort of like what ended up happening. And it was, I mean, it's basically been, 2 years of training that out of not just me, but, a couple of the guys as well that have been here since my rookie year all the way till now.
And I know the knee-jerk reaction for a lot of people when they hear that as well, it's too soft. Toughen up. Hard coaching is a part of sports. Deal with it, blah, blah, blah. That's not the point here. There is nothing wrong with hard-nosed coaching. We've all had hard-nosed coaches at some point in our athletic careers, little league, high school, college, whatever it may be. But if you're not giving construction on the other side, if you're just constantly tearing somebody down, what's the benefit of that? And the funny thing to me is that Tua came from Alabama. We've all seen pictures and clips of Nick Saban in practice. He tears everybody down. Everybody is playing terrible. Everybody is doing bad. But you know what he does on the other side of that? He says, okay, here's how we need to get better. Here is what you need to do to improve in this area that you're struggling with. And that's why his teams are so good. If you're a Brian Flores and you're just tearing everybody down, telling Tua he sucks and he's trash and doesn't deserve to be there, what benefit do you think he's going to get out of that? How are you going to make him better as a quarterback?
None. Absolutely none. Like you said, it's a team. These coaches are here to be pillars of support for these players. And, sometimes that support is in the form of, like you were mentioning, Nick Saban, kind of yelling at these players just so they kind of get an idea, how serious, if you want to win, we have to change X, Y, Z. But you can also do that without, calling a player trash or telling them they're terrible or kind of embedding in their mind that they're not valuable or don't offer anything to the team's success. I mean, like Tua just said, that can really be detrimental to an athlete's confidence long term.
And I think there's a hesitancy with a lot of people when it comes to positive reinforcement. Well, if I tell them they're doing too good of a job, they're going to get complacent. They're going to think, okay, well, this is as far as I need to go because I'm doing what's expected of me. And that's not necessarily the case. And again, everybody responds to things differently. So for some guys, if you build them up and say, hey, you're doing great, you're a perfect fit for this system, whatever it may be, that helps them get even better. You know what I mean? And it's individualized, right? Not everybody responds the same way. So
exactly.
Again, but again, at the end of the day, if you're going to be a critical coach, if you're going to tear people down, you have to be able to build them back up too. If you're just constantly dogging on them and telling them why they're not doing things right and what they're doing wrong and all this or constantly tearing them down and not building them back up, you're not going to be successful. Which again, there's a lot of things that went on with that Dolphins team for why they weren't winning. This may have been why. Part of it, why.
Right. And an interesting point I think you brought up is it's not it really is a case-by-case scenario. And not every player is the same, and not every player handles, that type of coaching the same way. Some players, it will totally help and be that igniting that fire under their butt that really gets them going. But for some players, that is what totally makes them shut down, want to shut off from the rest of the world, and kind of go on their own island and figure out how they're going to help the team win on their own.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, I think we've all had our own individual experiences with this. I had a wrestling coach in middle school that I couldn't stand because I felt like he was always dogging me, but at the same time, he was helping show me what I needed to do better. And as time went on, I'm like, okay, he was trying to help me by being critical, but also giving me that knowledge on the back end to help me become better. And I was a better wrestler because of that. Sounds like you had something kind of similar when it came to your running in college too.
Yeah, my running coach in college wanted us to win very, very, very badly. And his idea of that was literally running all day, every day, nonstop, 24/7. And that was a big reason why a lot of us got injured. But again, he really wanted us to win. Granted, I was in the best shape of my life. I'm not disputing that me and my teammates weren't, but we definitely could have gone about it with a little less miles, and it probably would have made it a little bit easier, at least on the legs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm being interested to see if Brian Flores has any rebuttal of this. He's still in the league, not as a head coach anymore, but he's somebody that has an opportunity to respond to this if it presented the opportunity to do that. So I'd be interested to see what his side of things, because look, there's two sides to every story, and maybe he was offering a little more construction on the other side that Tua didn't want to talk about there. But we'll see what happens if Brian Flores does end up responding to that. That'll do it for today's edition of The Extra Point. Sam, we'll see you back in here next week, and we finally be able to talk about some games coming up the next weekend. So looking forward to that for sure.
Oh, it's going to be so exciting. I can't wait.
All right, coming up next, it's the Garnet Trust Hour brought to you by Krantz Heating and Cooling on your Tuesday on the Game.
.1075 The Game. Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios.
Take up to $20,000 off new Silverados.
Stop by or shop online today and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile. Together, let's drive.
Don't let the season fool you. It's pool time in the Midlands. Hi, I'm Paul Romanstein, proud owner of Midlands Landscape and Loans. We have the experts in custom pool design and installation.